There's a level of acceptance I still have to go through, and also letting go of what I thought was going to happen over the next few years. The child is about to start their senior year of school, and this has brought up a whole bunch of things for me. Comparing what my senior year of school, high school is what we call it in the United States, versus what she's going through, the age gap, shirt signing versus having yearbooks. Yeah, there's a whole mess of stuff that's coming up. I really just need to talk about the differences between senior year here in the UK versus the United States. In the United States, 18 years old is pretty much the milestone, except for when you need to drink. For some reason, that has to be 21. But I know there's a whole big history around that. We're not going to go into it in that video. But for the most part, 18 is the milestone that most kids achieve and want to aspire to, right? Because that's when you are legally an adult. You can drive, you can vote, you get to enlist in the armed forces if that is your cup of tea. And your senior year of high school, you graduate. And it's the last hurrah, basically, before you are a child and you enter adulthood. And I put that in quotes for a whole bunch of other reasons. Again, it's another video about being an adult at 18 in the United States. But anyway, here in the UK, it's a milestone at 16. Because here in the UK, that is where you basically graduate without actually having a formal graduation ceremony, which we're going to talk about later. You take your GCSEs, you decide whether you're going to do sixth form or apprenticeship or college or whatever comes next. And you are doing it 2 years earlier than your American peers. My niece is turning 18. And my daughter is turning 16, and they're both going to finish school at the same time. That is a completely alien thing to me. I don't know how to process that. I don't know what to do with it. I'm a little overwhelmed with it. It's kind of left me emotionally unprepared for how early kids have to think about what direction my life is going. You know, that whole, what am I going to do with my life decision is 2 years earlier here in the UK. My partner, who is British, for those of you who don't know, actually left school at 16. And started working like right away as a job. Crazy. Like for me, I was not ready to get a job and start my life at 16. I was barely ready to even go away to college at 18. I still think 18 is a little young to be making a life decision like that, but I'm also a firm believer in you can change your life at any moment. I mean, I look at me, I'm in my second half of my life and I've completely changed it from what it was in the United States. But I digress. This is about the 16 and 18 year olds. I just feel like it might be a little bit young, but then when you dig deeper under the surface, maybe not, because the UK definitely preps a little bit better for adulthood and maturity than the United States does. For a country that is very anti-socialism, they like to create a very dependent adult population. Sixth form is if you want to, at some point, go to university and you continue your studies after 16. So 16, you are officially done with school. And then if you are thinking of continuing your studies, then you go to what's called sixth form, which is year 17 and year 18. It's still attached to school life, and in some instances, kids will continue in the same exact school setting. It's just that they don't have to wear uniforms anymore. They have a lighter schedule, and they have a little bit more freedom to come and go than you would in the regular school years, I guess. That's how you put it? I don't know. Anyway, it's not really like the leap out of the nest college situation that a lot of Americans picture. Also, if you decide you're not going to further your studies and eventually go to university or study something professionally, then you can also have the option of going to college, which is kind of, I think, the equivalent of trade high school, Vo-Tech high school, we used to call it when I was younger in school in the United States. If I'm wrong, please definitely let me know in the comments and help clarify that a little bit for me. Still learning, but you can actually go to college and learn a trade, or you can do other things like apprenticeships and stuff that we'll talk about again later. But it's not the same leap out of the nest and be on your own college experience that you have in America. It's a very, very different picture. Most of the kids that, even if they're going to college or sixth form, they're still living at home. Maybe they're working a part-time job a little bit just for some beer money or to go out on the weekends or whatever. but it's more of just like trying to figure out and perfect your trade, like what exactly it is that you're going to do when you do become an adult at 18. I think the word itself is a trap for American parents. I know it is for me because I definitely panic whenever someone says they're going to college or their kid is going to college, because I immediately think of my experience of going to college, which was I graduated high school at 18 and then applied for a bunch of different colleges. And then I went away out of state, stayed on campus all by myself, not knowing anyone or anything, and just having to kind of start over on my way. So basically I had that escaping kind of spirit even then. Anyway, that's kind of what I think of, like the parents driving you down, unloading the car, packing you into your dorm room, meeting your roommate, taking everybody out to dinner, and then having a tearful goodbye and being on their way back home. But that's not the way it is here. It's definitely more just like a continuation of your schooling, just in a different building. And, whether or not sometimes in a different building, whether or not you have to wear a uniform, and just, I guess, the level of freedom that you have. Definitely nothing like I thought or experienced in the US. Here in the UK also, the path to furthering education isn't limited to university, which is basically going to college or going to university in the US. You have the opportunity to either go to work, as my partner did. You can choose between university and apprenticeships in some cases and other vocational tracks a lot earlier than we do in the US. I remembered I studied teaching for a little while in the United States. God knows why, looking back on it now. There's no way I could have been a teacher, but I would have definitely hurt a kid. But I need to cut that part out. That's so bad. And I remember that I wasn't allowed to do apprenticeship until like my third or fourth year in university of studying education, which I thought was a little bit strange. But here you can apply for an apprenticeship almost right after you finish school, depending on what vocation you're actually going into. And it's a lot more hands-on training, and you get to kind of work your way up. And then most apprentices that I've known have gone that route. They end up having a full-time job with that company at pretty good pay, and they end up, the ones that I know anyway, their path has led them to actually grow with the company. I think in the United States, apprenticeship is either something that's like required in order to finish your degree, or it's something that just like American teens just kind of do to get on their resume. Because I didn't really know that many people that did any apprenticing unless they're at the college level, and it was basically to graduate. It was something that they needed, a requirement for them to get their diploma. And I think here, apprenticeships and vocational tracks actually get a lot more respect than they do in the US. I've heard it's changing a little bit. So, kudos to that, because it definitely is something that should never have been in the background, in my opinion. We need plumbers, we need mechanics, we need people that are going to do trades work and hard labor as much as we need people that are going to be doctors and lawyers. And when I went to school, there was a huge push for professional white collar type jobs, and the blue collar jobs were basically just something that people fell back on if they couldn't make it in university. But here it's definitely treated with a lot more respect, and it's a lot more deliberate. And I really appreciate that and like that. And it did reframe what I thought like success at 17 was supposed to look like, because there's so many 17, 18, 19-year-olds that are doing so well and have really, really good paying jobs that they're really enjoying. And compared to their American counterparts, they're miles and miles away from each other, which makes me think that maybe back home in the US we get it wrong. Okay, so exams. Again, this is another topic that I'm a little bit confused on, so definitely school me because I have to learn, because we're going through this now. But you have GCSEs versus SATs and finals. I think you do still have SATs here in the UK, but they're not as it's not as much emphasis on SATs here as it is in the United States. Like SATs are everything in the United States, the SEs are everything here in the UK. But they're not, CSEs are not like a single test day. Like in the United States, SATs, you can tell me if it's similar here to the UK. Basically a Saturday morning, 3 or 4 hours, you just sit there and you take your SATs, one subject after another. I remember taking them. I took math, English, science, maybe literature, something like that. And you don't get a choice on the subjects. They are chosen for you. That is what you have to take. And you need to take this and score a certain level in order to get into college at all, college/university. And the higher universities require even higher and better scores on the SATs. So there's a lot of pressure put on the SATs in the United States. And lots of people start like prepping for it and taking like pre-SATs and all kinds of prep after school courses and stuff throughout their high school career until you take the SATs, which is usually in your senior year, the last year of high school. The GCSEs are more like a marathon, it feels like. I mean, my child has already completed a whole bunch of mock GCSEs and she's decided which tests she's going to take next year. And she's got a whole year to learn and study for them and prepare. And it really does feel a little bit overwhelming for me. So I could imagine some of the pressure she feels like she's under. In either event, though, it's kind of like these tests really do shape any doors that are going to open for you in the future. Even applying for jobs here, I've seen that they have requirements for GCSEs on like you have to have a certain level in math and English or something like that. I don't remember. I'm saying this off the top of my head. It's a requirement in order to even apply for a job. So I think that's probably the equivalent of like having a bachelor's degree or master's degree in the United States, which are university degrees for those of you who might not know. Me personally, I'm the mom watching this from the sidelines, trying to help the child along. I'm trying to be supported and put as much pressure as I can in the right places at the right times and motivate as much as I can. When in reality, I really don't know what the hell I'm doing because I've never been through it. And my partner has been through it. It's been like 2 decades ago, and he didn't take nearly as many as GCSEs that she's taking. We're doing our best, but it is definitely a learning curve. And we're watching this from the sidelines from a point of view that like neither of us expected and neither of us fully understand. And I'm just sitting here. This is an exam system I'm not familiar with. I didn't grow up on. I know I'm learning as much as I can about, but I didn't grow up with it. So it isn't instinct and it isn't the only thing I know. So it's definitely brought out a kind of stress that I wasn't expecting as a parent here in the UK. I'll tell you that. Talk about proms. And I think I might do something a little more deep dive into this later on when we get to that point of view. But the prom thing here, it's a big deal and they have it. And I know it's a fairly new tradition because I know my partner said he didn't have anything like that his senior year. But it's definitely a different feeling when people talk about it. They don't talk about like having a date or going with their boyfriends. There's a little bit of like a dress and get ready hoopla, but definitely not near like prom season hoopla that happens like 5 or 6 months before prom in the US. And it's much more of like a gathering of friends that you went to school and your schoolmates, like celebrating more so than like the pressure of like a romantic evening or having the right hair or the right dress or any of that stuff. I'm still learning a little bit about that. We haven't quite reached that part yet, but I just wanted to mention it because it's already something that I am anticipating is going to be a little bit of a stressor, just watching from the sidelines and trying to figure out what the hell's supposed to happen. Next is graduation and yearbooks versus shirt signing. So I was going through all my boxes that I got from the US finally. And of course, my cap that I wore in my graduation and my diploma were in there. And it brought back a whole bunch of memories of the day and who attended and watching my friends get their diploma and all that, getting ready, wearing the robe, all that stuff. And I realized my child's not going to have that because you don't have cap and gown ceremonies at this stage. You only have them at university. It's a huge deal because it's a milestone in the United States. It's a rite of passage almost for American lifestyle. And it's a big deal. You get up, you get ready, you put your cap and gown on, you get a picture taken, you go to the ceremony, you line up, you get your name, you listen to all the speeches, which are boring, but you listen to all the speeches. Each student gets called out, gets handed their diploma. You move your little ribbon tassel is what's called, over from one side to the next. And then you get together in a group and you throw your hat in the air and then we all take pictures and we go out to dinner and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to get to see my daughter do that. Anyway, I had it. It's really strange to know I'm not going to see the child do it. And then the yearbook thing is a big thing in the US as well. You get your yearbook. There's usually tons and tons of pictures of your entire like high school career for the seniors. You have everybody sign it. Everyone, talks about where they're going to school and about keeping in touch and making sure that we follow. I guess nowadays it would be follow each other on Instagram or whatever social media. Whereas for me, it was like, make sure you send me a letter. Don't talk about how old I am. But here in the UK, the kids like sign each other's school shirts on their last day or something. I mean, it's cool and it's fun. It sounded a little bit less than. It sounded like a little bit of a low budget version. No offense to anyone at all. But, now I'm kind of understanding what it means to the kids. In reality, I mean, I don't have any of my yearbooks anymore, I don't think, and I definitely don't keep in touch with anybody. Maybe that whole part of the ceremony is kind of ridiculous and overblown and a waste of resources. And maybe the shirt signing is a lot more fun. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I am a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to see the child in a cap and gown and be able to, cheer them on as they get their diploma and watch them walk across, unless she goes to university and graduates and decides to walk. We'll see, I guess. The last thing I wanted to talk about really was just expectations. It's not about prom or yearbook or graduation ceremonies or where they're going to end up or what tests they take. It's just really realizing, I think, that I'm at the stage where it's very obvious to me that the script that the child was supposed to follow, the script I followed, the script my sister followed, and my niece and nephews are going to follow, and most of the people I know or knew followed, just doesn't exist here, obviously. This is a different country, and that's how it goes. But I think also I have to accept that. There's a level of acceptance I still have to go through, and also letting go of what I thought was going to happen over the next few years. It's difficult I don't know if anyone who is a parent out there, if you guys have had any similar experiences, please share them with me. Your advice if you have it. But it's when you are a parent and you're seeing your kid go through stuff and it's completely different than what you went through, it brings up a lot of inadequacies and self-doubt about your parenting and a lot of worry that you're going to tell them wrong or guide them in the wrong direction because you don't really fully understand it either. I mean, I just keep telling the kid, this is a learning curve for me too. And if you find something different, then please ask. I'm doing as much research as I can to be as informed as I can behind the scenes, talking to as many people as I can. You guys are great about that. And also just in the same breath of telling her, maybe we should ask your form teacher, or maybe we should ask the teacher of that specific subject or friend or friend's, sibling that might have already been through it. Or we're talking to our friends that have kids that have been through the whole process. Because here it's not about any of that stuff. It's not about the ceremony of it. It's not about the, dare I say, performance of it. It just doesn't exist here. And I have to let it all go that it's going to happen that way, right? And in this process of the specific process of remembering my stuff, but realizing my child's going to have a completely different experience, what has taught me the most has been less about the milestones and more about my expectations and how I need to really just let it go and let her be. This year is going to be a whirlwind for me, I think. There's lots already happening just in prep for it. And I'm expecting to feel when I thought about my kid going to her senior year of school, I pictured it a certain way, of course, based on my experience and everything I knew. And I'm worried that I'm going to feel like they missed out on something. But so far in this experience of living here in the UK, she has grown in ways that I can't even verbalize. She's a completely different person than she was when we landed in so many different ways. Not that she couldn't have been that person in the US, but she probably couldn't have, to be honest, because this is the experience of moving abroad, the independence and the just room to breathe, room to explore on our own, and the educational system, embracing her good qualities and her strengths and helping her with her weaknesses and not just grooming her to be another worker. I mean, of course she's going to be a different person, right? And I'm watching her grow up in a different way. So why wouldn't her venture into the adult world be different? It's not worse. It's not better, I guess, just different. And I guess the better or worse part will be something she'll have to figure out on her own when she's in her adulthood. But that's most of what living here in the UK has taught me, is that it's just genuinely different. And the worse or better part just depends on the subject, the perspective, and, whatever experiences you have to support it. So I guess I'll just let her create her experiences and figure it out for herself. We'll see how it goes.